Thursday, January 6, 1944. Dearest Kitty, today I have two things to confess. It's going to take a long time, but I have to tell them to someone, and you're the most likely candidate since I know you'll keep a secret no matter what happens. The first is about Mother. As you know, I frequently complained about her and then tried my best to be nice. I've suddenly realized what's wrong with her. Mother has said that she sees us more as friends than as daughters. That's all really very nice, of course, except that a friend can be the place of a mother. I need my mother to set a good example and be a person I can respect. But in most matters, she's an example of what not to do. I have the feeling that Margaret thinks so differently about these things, and that she had never been able to understand what I have just told you. And father avoids all conversation having to do with mother. I imagine a mother as a woman who first and foremost possesses a great deal of tact, especially towards her adolescent children, and not one who's like Mumsy, pokes fun at me when I cry, not because I'm in pain, but because of other things. This may seem trivial, but there's an incident I've never forgiven her for. It happened one day when I had to go to the dentist. Mother and Margaret planned to go with me and agreed I should go take my bicycle. When the dentist was finished and we were back outside, Margaret and Mother was sweetly informed me that they were going into town to buy or look at something. I didn't remember what. Of course, I wanted to go along, but they said I couldn't come because I had my bike with me. Tears of rage rushed to my eyes. Margaret and Mother began laughing at me. I was so furious that I stuck my tongue out of them right there on the street. A little old lady happened to be passing by and she looked terribly shocked. I cycled home and must have cried for hours. Strangely enough, even though Mother has wounded me thousands of times, this particular wound still stings whenever I think of how angry I was. I find it difficult to confess the second one because it's about myself. I'm not prudish, Kitty, and yet every time they give a blow-by-blow account of their trips to the lavatory, when they often do, my whole body rises in revolt. Yesterday I read an article on blushing by Sis Heister. It was as if she had addressed it directly to me. Not that I blush easily, but the rest of the article did apply. What she basically says is that during puberty, girls withdraw into themselves and begin thinking about the wondrous changes taking place in their bodies. I feel that too, while probably accounts for my recent embarrassment over Margaret. Mother and father. On the other hand, Margaret is a lot shyer than I am, and yet she is not in the least embarrassed. I think that what's happening to me is so wonderful, and I don't just mean the changes taking place on the outside of the body, but also those on the inside. I never discuss myself or any of these things with others, which is why I have to talk about them to myself. Whenever I get my period, and that's only been 3 months, I have the feeling that in spite of all the pain, discomfort, miss, I'm carrying around a sweet secret. So even though it's a nuisance in a certain way, I'm always looking forward to the time when I'll feel a secret inside me once again. Sis Heister also writes that girls my age feel very insecure about themselves and are just beginning to discover that they're individuals with their own ideas, thoughts, and habits. I just turned 13, which when I came here, so I started thinking about myself and realized that I've become an independent person sooner than most girls. Sometimes when I lie on bed at night, I feel a terrible urge to touch my breast and listen to the quiet, steady beating of my heart. Unconsciously, I had these feelings even before I came here. Once when I was spending the night at Jake's, I can no longer restrain my curiosity about her body, which she'd always hidden from me and which I'd never seen. I asked her whether, as proof of our friendship, we could touch each other's breast. Jake refused. I also had a terrible desire to kiss her, which I did. Every time I see a female nude, such as the Venus in my art history book, I go into ecstasy. Sometimes I find them so exquisite I have to struggle to hold back my tears. If only I had a girlfriend. Thursday, January 6, 1944. Dearest Kitty, my longing for someone to talk to has become so unbearable that I somehow took it into my head to select Peter for this role. One of the few occasions when I have listened On the few occasions when I have gone to Peter's room during the day, I've always thought it was nice and cozy, but Peter's too polite to show someone the door when they're bothering him, so I've never dared to stay long. I've always been afraid he'd think I was a pest. I've been looking for an excuse to linger in his room and get him talking without his noticing. And yesterday I got my chance. Peter, you see, is currently going through a crossword puzzle craze, and his he doesn't do anything all day. I was helping him, and we soon wound up sitting across from each other at his table. Peter on the chair and me on the divan. It gave me a wonderful feeling when I looked into his dark blue eyes and saw how bashful my unexpected visit had made him. I could read his innermost thoughts, and in his face I saw a look of helplessness and uncertainty as to how to behave, and at the same time a flicker of awareness of his masculinity. I saw his shyness and I melted. I wanted to say, tell me about yourself. Look beneath my chatty exterior. But I found that it was easier to think up questions than to ask them. The evening came to a close and nothing happened except that I told him about the article on blushing. Not what I wrote to you, of course, just that he would grow more secure as he get older. That night I lay in bed and cried my eyes out, all the while making sure no one could hear me. The idea that I had to beg Peter for favors was simply revolting. But people will do almost anything to satisfy their longings. Take me for example. I've made up my mind to visit Peter more often and somehow get him to talk to me. You mustn't think I'm in love with Peter, because I'm not. If the Van If the Vandans had a daughter instead of a son, I'd have tried to make friends with her. This morning I woke up just before 7 and immediately remembered that what I've been dreaming about. I was sitting on a chair and across me was Peter Schiff. We were looking at a book of drawings by Mary Bros. The dream was so vivid I can't even remember some of the drawings. But that wasn't all. The dream went on. Peter's eyes suddenly met mine, and I stared for a long time into those velvety brown eyes. Then he said, very softly, "If I'd only known, I'd have come to you long ago." I turned abruptly away, overcome by emotion, and then I felt a soft, oh so cool and gentle cheek against mine, and it felt so good. So good. At that point I woke up, still feeling his cheek against mine and his brown eyes staring deep into my heart, so deep that he could read how much I loved him and how much I still do. Against my eyes filled with tears, and I was sad because I'd lost him once more, and yet at the same time because I knew with certainty that Peter is still the only one for me. It's funny. I often have such vivid images in my dream. One night I saw Grammy so clearly that I could even make out her skin of soft, crinkly velvet. Another time Grandpa appeared to me as a guardian angel. After that it was Hanley, who still symbolizes to me the suffering of my friends as well as that of the Jews in general, so that when I'm praying for her, I'm also praying for all the Jews and all those in need. And now Peter, my dearest Peter, I've never had such a clear mental image of him. I don't need a photograph. I can see him oh so well. Yours, Anne.